Welcome to the EcoSend podcast. Be inspired, educated, and entertained by the world's most ambitious leaders, putting climate at the top of their agenda. Hi there, welcome to another episode of the EcoSend podcast. I'm thrilled to be back. I'm your host, James, and for those of you new to the show, the EcoSend podcast is a weekly podcast where I talk to wonderful, inspiring leaders who are doing a bit of good in the world, in the world of business, in the world of marketing, in the world of design, all sorts. This week, I am thrilled to be joined by Dom, and Dom is a director at View Digital. View Digital are on a mission to create a network of organizations that are doing purposeful work. I'm very excited to tuck into lots of good topics today with Dom, including things like BCorp, digital sustainability, community building, and all sorts. So, hi Dom, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Hey James, yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, I'm doing all right.
Awesome, Dom. Good to hear. And you're in quite a cool part of the world, aren't you? You're down in, is it in Cornwall you're at the moment?
Nearly next door.
Nearly.
So
Next
we
door.
do
Ah,
the
darn it.
jam and the cream on the scones the wrong way round or something.
I always forget which way round it is as well.
I do as well, but my preference, which my wife tells me is wrong, is that I have jam first and cream on top. And I
There
think
we
that
go.
might be the Cornish way, but I'm not sure.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. If anyone's listening or watching, please answers on a postcard. It's a lovely part of the world, anyway, Dom. So
Yeah.
I'm very envious. Yeah. Please do tell us all a little bit more about what you're up to.
Great, yeah. So I'm Dom from View Digital, as we've recently rebranded. We've been around for about 15 years, and we do brand development work, websites, and marketing, primarily digital marketing for small businesses. We are a government supplier now, so we're on various government frameworks. We work with um, charities and third sector organizations, and like you say, what we like to call purposeful organizations that are for profit. So that's people coming at it from a social or environmental angle, as well as trying to make a profit.
Um, there's so much already to unpack from all of that. I'm very excited to dig into some of these. I mean, for a start, congratulations on running the business for 15 years. That's a huge achievement in its own right.
Yeah, so I've the business was not founded by me, but my business
Yeah,
partner has been in for the full ride. He was there at the
yeah.
beginning. We're joint business owners now, but I've been doing it 10 years, which is quite long
So
enough.
a pretty good effort there, Dom.
Pretty good. Yeah, he's in for a bit longer.
Amazing. And so clearly, I mentioned B Corp at the start, but very into sustainability, and hence one of the big reasons why we're talking on this show. So, tell me about your journey into better business, sustainability. What's taking you on that path?
Yeah, so probably if I rewind way back to sort of the journey of View, I originally came into the business when it was situated in Totnes.
Mm.
Totnes is a beautiful old market town in Devon, for those that don't know, and it's generally quite proudly considers itself the sort of hippie capital of the UK. I grew up and went to school in Totnes, and so did my business partner. And there's a sort of commercial hippie vibe to how we go about doing things, I suppose. It was part of our formative years being at school there and then working in Totnes. It kind of seeps in, and Totnes does loads of great things. At the moment, there's a huge amount of great work going on in sort of biodiversity and proper farming and things around Totnes. But also, they did things like the Totnes Pound to help keep money within the economy. They famously throw people off the high street if they're a big corporation. They want local, sustainable businesses or in and around them, and so that stuff seeps into the psyche.
Yeah.
So yeah, we probably from the start to a degree we were putting that stuff first, but trying to also grow a business and make money. And it really, I don't know, probably for the first 5, 10 years of the business, it was just trying to evolve, do good work, get the right clients. Sometimes the relationships were good, sometimes they were more challenging, as most businesses go through in
Yeah.
the first few years. And then maybe somewhere between 5, 10 years, we started to sort of unpick our values and who we were a really good fit for. And then the last probably 5 years of the business, it's really been about putting those values first and communicating it. And as we started to sort of unravel that onion, it enabled different lines of questioning around how we structure the business, how we make those decisions. And, the terrible thing about, digital and the internet now is that it famously is quite responsible for a lot of greenhouse gas emissions. And there's a quote out there: if it was a country, it would be the fourth biggest polluter in the world. And we've now got AI being layered onto that, which is consuming huge amounts of energy. So it's only going to go one way. And meanwhile, at the same time, huge amounts of data is being stored in big server farms and never used. 90%, I think, is something like that. And loads of websites springing up that don't receive any traffic, that all need storing on servers. So we started, unpicking some of those things, circling around our values, trying to understand how to do that. And probably the main sort of big change for us was we had one of our members of staff at the time was married to someone who worked in measuring carbon and carbon output. She's called Dr. Gillian Alker, and she's off now, many years later. She's around, off to events with the UN and all sorts.
Wow.
She's off in to Europe and various other places doing quite high conferences, talking at very high level. She came to our little office in Totnes, helped us sort of unpick everything and start measuring what we were doing. And we basically worked out that we were pretty good. The office used most of the energy that we were doing, and the best thing we could probably do is move to a more sustainable way of working. And then we've been using Planet Mark to measure our carbon ever since. So we've been on this journey of discovery, and that led us on to B Corp as well, and various other things followed after.
That's so interesting to hear that journey, Dom, because yeah, it sounds like things very much organically developed over time. And it wasn't like it's quite refreshing, to just hear like when you started all that time ago, it wasn't like initially set up to be this extremely opinionated, or we're going to be very purposeful in everything we do from day one. It's something that's organically developed over time, and you've found your feet doing that. And I'm interested as well. Maybe in a bit we can unpack some of the like maybe challenges of like and benefits of that, but also challenges. And I guess maybe that it does come into sort of the topic around becoming a B Corp. And I guess I've spoken to a few people on this podcast about when you start out, you kind of, if you start out thinking you're going to be a B Corp, which maybe companies do today, then I guess you can kind of get a lot of stuff in place from day one. But for a business that's already been operating, perhaps even like yourself, maybe for like a decade or more, then I would imagine there's quite a few challenges there of applying that. But yeah, it'd be good to hear like for Vu what it was like becoming a B Corp.
Yeah, so I think reflecting on some of your points there, I think sometimes we have an approach to certain things where we feel like there's a start and an end point to fix something, and to take, something like a brand and say that's it, done. Ultimately the marketplace will change, time will change, societal perspectives. everything will shift, and therefore the way that your business evolves around that will, and the way that the brand needs to communicate will change. So there's certain things where we talk about future proofing and various things like that, and I think we have to be ready to flex and move. We're reflecting on View Online 15 years later, going, online, that sounds a bit rubbish because, like at the time, probably online was really cool. And so that's not really a new thing now, is it? And back then it was just about websites. Social media was in its infancy. The world was a very different place, and we've certainly had to move and find our feet with that. And I did a seminar a few weeks ago where I talked about 5 stages of branding, and there's this sort of startup phase where businesses are running around trying to do everything for everyone. And lots of organizations start there, and we did too. And you just want to please everyone. You're not quite sure what you're all about. And you go through a process of understanding the right kind of client and then your USPs, and you can start communicating slightly differently and going, oh, we work well with these guys. And then you can go through being a bit more targeted, and then eventually you can move towards the business being self-sustaining financially, and aiming towards, well, what is it I put back? What does the business actually stand for? What do I get up to do every day? What impact do I want to have? And all of those kind of questions circle you to a completely different place. And the moment you start putting those questions before the financial decision making is the moment that you start having that line of B Corp thinking. And that's what's really powerful, because it can move you into a place of, okay, if I did it this way, what would that look like? And we feel like when we think like that as business people, we feel like we're going to miss out on something, or it's going to be an expense, instead of thinking about what would this layer on top. And our experiences has been great, because we've found by going down these little rabbit warrens, they've actually layered things on top of the business and brought unknown rewards. But also some challenges too. Um, which you did mention. So it does, for those out there who aren't a B Corp and maybe scratching the surface of this, there are some things to be aware of. It's going to take time. B Corp is a tremendous framework. There's sort of 5 components to it, and they're not just about making money and governance. They're about people, community, all sorts of elements, and it's going to take a bit of time to do. There were myself and my business partner Richard probably spent a year on this, not inclusively. We're still on the tools a little bit, doing some work, but probably sometime every week for a long time.
Yeah.
It's also fairly expensive. I think you have to go through the process, and that's about £1,000, and you have to renew and do that for a few years. So I think all in, you're probably looking at about £5,000 investment over a few years.
Yeah.
Which, if you consider it just another accreditation that your business might be going after, it's going to be on the top end of expensive. What I am starting to see now, which is quite cool, is the moment you say you're a B Corp, I've stood up in networking events and people have clapped when I've mentioned.
Really?
Yeah, people realize how much hard work goes into it. The movement itself is now far better seen than it was even a year ago when we started. I talked to people about it and they were like, "Oh, B Corp, what's that?" And now it's like we're a digital marketing B Corp. Oh wow, that must have been some work. Different conversation.
We've been through some things together.
That's right.
Yeah.
The other thing is you're going to have to make some fairly permanent decisions. One of the things we did very early on, because B Corp weights a lot of points towards, is change your articles of association. So the way the business is fundamentally structured, and it will lean into you creating quite a sort of, well, for us anyway, our journey was quite a policy driven organization. We had good policies and procedures in place, but we really had to align them with social and environmental values, and to live that when you've got a team of people working with you, that has to eke into policies and procedures so that you can
Yeah.
evidence that that will continue to happen.
Sure. Sure.
There
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
also a naughty list for B Corp. They've got certain things, as you can probably imagine, they don't like you being associated with the arms industry and the bad
Yes.
people
Yeah.
in energy and gambling and all of those nasty things. Now, luckily, we didn't have too many clients like that, but for some who might have chased a quick buck over longevity, it might be quite a difficult thing to say, actually,
Mm.
we might end up not being able to work with people that we're quite dependent on from a financial perspective at this point. And
Yeah.
I think that's probably one of the reasons why it's so exclusive and also so few people actually get through. I think there's only about 3,000 in the UK and only 33% pass. So there's an
Mm.
awful lot of applications that don't make it through. And I also think that's probably why it has this perception that it's hard work and a really credible thing to do.
Yeah. Such an honest and transparent take on B Corp there, Dom. I really appreciate that because, I think for many small businesses sometimes I think a lot of people would probably like to be a B Corp, especially those listening to this podcast. But sometimes it's not always clear, like how many challenges there could be getting to that point, what the costs might be, the time it might take. Sometimes it's easy to live in this bubble and think, I want to build a good business, like I want to do all the right things. But sometimes you quickly realize there's also very real world fires to put out when running a business. There's very real world customers to win or keep and retain, and sometimes it's very easy for that doing good piece to take at least a second place to some of the urgent challenges of running a business on a daily basis. So it's very refreshing to hear your take and to hear of some of the benefits as well. Um, I was curious if on the especially on the client base side, did you have to say goodbye to any clients, or did that cause any difficult conversations with anyone there?
There was one.
Yeah.
We've been supporting for a very long time an organisation called Water UK,
Mm.
and they oversee all of the water companies across the UK. And B
Right.
Corp weren't quite sure about that. It's a very big organization. We've always been very proud to be associated with them because of the work they do to help everyday people understand a bit more about water usage and be
Mm.
transparent about their reporting. And we've done an awful lot of work with them to help them do that in the best way possible. Um, but as I say, we haven't gone, there's been ethical and moral decisions taken as a business and individuals to not pursue conversations around clients that were already ring fenced in the naughty list.
Hmm.
So for organizations that are out there with with good standards, actually all it will do is help support those and
Sure.
reaffirm that you're in business for the long run, you're doing the
Mm.
right things already, and that's really great. And
Mm.
for those that aren't, who are looking at it as a profile exercise, that have maybe gone after some of the naughty list bunch, they've got a real decision to make, and that's what B
Yeah.
Corp does well, because it's basically saying you're going to have to live these values, guys. You can't
Yeah.
sweep that under the rug and have our accreditation and all the good that comes with it without making the compromise of doing those things that are right.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to live and breathe B Corp.
On the
Yeah.
on the plus side, the like I say, the perception shift from people that we've had has been beyond what I expected, and the
Really.
B Corp is massively in demand. The process from the point of application to getting assessed, my feeling was they were totally oversubscribed at the moment. You know, the
Mm,
movement itself, I think, has picked up
mm,
immensely over the last few years.
mm,
And obviously they want to protect their standards and
mm.
keep that as at the same level that it is, while still being open to people coming in. So that's been a huge bonus. We've had people coming to us at a different level of inquiry. So new leads for business. Last week we had a closed tender inquiry from a very big charity, um, which I don't think, as a government supplier, we get involved in frameworks and we get to go out and pitch for work effectively. But I can't think of a time where we've had an organization of that size come to us with a closed tender, which is basically saying, we're looking around for people who have certain set of values, and we're offering you into that inner circle to have a pitch at working with us, and so that's a lovely thing. It also helps you firm up really your mission and vision and purpose, like I mentioned earlier. One of the things that we've done, which is really cool, we have an AGM, which we've been a really small micro business, and an AGM seemed like a really crazy thing that we didn't really need to be doing.
Yeah.
But what we did was we pulled together a group of people to represent those five core values of B Corp
Right.
on our board. So even though we don't have a board, we had people there that would say, "Okay, can you hold us to account on the people that we work with? Can you hold us to account on the environment, the governments, all of those areas?" And the other thing I would say, even if you didn't go through the process, the framework itself is incredible. It that the questions are so well structured. It makes you go looking under rocks that you might not have thought to do within your business. It makes you put values ahead of profits and things like that. As an example, to to sort of showcase that, and then showcase the and that we get. So we the framework says put some percentage of your profits back into one of our chosen um, suppliers of charity, effectively. So we looked at the 1% for the planet thing, which was, I think, a Patagonia initiative originally. And we found a local organization who are fantastic called the Devon Environment Foundation, and we put some money back towards them. Now, because of that, we then got invited to one of their events. And because of going to their events and being involved with them, we've helped them put money back into local organizations, which we're now seeing springing up. And
Oh,
we're
wow.
making friends and getting connected with other organizations to do with this charity. Now, we wouldn't
Yeah.
have gone down that rabbit hole to get to those people and find them without going through that process of using the framework. So it really is a fantastic thing, I have to say.
That is, yeah, that's incredible. It's incredible the kind of the knock-on effects and consequences of it. And I think the more and more I speak to people who have gone through the process, not just to B Corp, but that live and breathe and embody the values of B Corp at the very least. It, it it's totally. I rarely hear that it's been a load of work and there's been no financial or business benefit. Like there's always, of course, the benefits that you get from being a values driven organization, from waking up every day feeling good about what you're going to go and do at work. But I think I just hear more and more these incredible examples of where it's been better for the business. It's put them in touch with new clients, new opportunities. It's connected them with companies that are better suppliers. It's made them more attractive from a recruitment perspective. And I just think it's very I feel very inspired when I hear these stories, and very motivated for other businesses like going on this journey too. It's pretty exciting.
And actually, I wouldn't be here today either because the process of getting to meet you and being a part of EcoSend was a part of looking through our suppliers. We
Ah,
were
right.
a
Yeah.
MailChimp partner. And when
Uh-huh.
we were looking at under that particular rock, we were looking for
Yeah.
a sustainable email marketing
There we
provider
go.
because, that has its impact. When you're
That's
doing email
amazing.
marketing for potentially, 100 clients and they might have a mailing list of thousands each, you start to
Yeah.
realize the impact of the emails that you're sending. And, they
Yes.
trust your voice on who should we use to send our emails. And
Yeah.
that snowballs over, those things happen over time and you realize actually this is now quite a big thing that we're doing. And if there's a
Yeah.
few grams of carbon for every email that we send, then we can be working with suppliers who care about that and that want to offset
Yeah.
that and do something about it.
Yeah. Oh, that's actually I genuinely I didn't realize that, Dom. So that's actually really heartwarming to hear. And I guess it does take us quite nicely onto another topic I know that you were keen to talk about, which was sort of the wider digital sustainability topic. Because, while I've got you who's working on websites, working on email campaigns for so many clients, it's a good opportunity to touch on that. It's something that maybe B Corp itself doesn't particularly dive into too much in their own questionnaire, but I think I've seen it from a lot of B Corps where you see the sort of the badge on many people's sites about how the carbon calculator kind of score and how polluting a certain website is. So, and I know that's been something you've been caring about with also with your rebrand and the new site and everything. So yeah, I was keen to hear how that's been and how that those conversations maybe have gone with clients as well.
Yeah, I think uh, to sort of unpack those bits bit by bit, in terms of the phrase itself, it's not something that is well known, but something I think
Mm.
is coming round the corner. There's been a phrase at sort of top levels of government around digital transformation, which is sort of
Mm.
getting up to speed largely. And
Mm.
something that doesn't seem to exist that I want to explore is digital sustainability transformation. So instead of looking at making it better, what's the parameter for better?
Mm.
Because surely we should be taking into account the impact of what we're choosing as better. And so I'm kind of keen to try and understand, you know, organizations from top to bottom. So, firstly, obviously, lightweight websites, renewable energy hosting, these are things you can change. There will be certain email providers for your operational email, not just your marketing emails, that are greener than others. Trying to unpick and work out these things and then make recommendations is something that I'm not sure is really happening. And that's what we're really keen to start exploring and progressing as a service offering, but also just bringing that into people's awareness. The tenders that we see on government portals aren't quite weighted towards it. There is the CSR stuff where there's corporate social responsibility, but I would love to see at procurement level people taking this stuff into account more. And um, whilst I'm on that, one of the things that we unpicked to take the environmental stuff and park that for a second is the social side of B Corp. And one of the things that I found out when we were exploring this supply chain was offshore. In digital, it's increased in the last 4 years by nearly 70% and is something like 12 billion a year, maybe more, goes offshore. Now, that's fine as long as offshore work is being won transparently and delivered fairly. And our concern is that these people, where the work's going, this digital work is going to people in poor working conditions, people that aren't paid what they should, and that is driving down the prices here. So I only found this out when my small micro agency was undercut on price by a massive London agency. And you think, how is that possible? And it was possible because they've got an Indian office. And you think, well, this is just not, if the tender they won, if it's a massive government organization, what is the PR expense of them being found out that there's slavery conditions behind their digital offering? This is something that would ruin organizations' reputation and is not perhaps being communicated transparently from top to bottom. So if procurement teams said, we need to ensure that firstly it's hosted on renewable energy and all of the good stuff, but also is going to be delivered by competent, well-paid people, all of those things, then we would have some slightly different frameworks. At the moment, those tender bids are often structured around competency of work and showing that you've done it before, rather than how you would deliver it now.
Right.
But I think
Yeah.
one of the things that is coming, I think there was a thing in the BBC, they were looking at going through their supply chain. This is the really hard thing when you start measuring your carbon, is you have to go through your supply chain. And so when you're a tiny little micro agency in Devon and you're trying to ask Amazon what the carbon impact is, they don't really care. They don't have
Yeah.
the capability to break down the tiny bit of the world that we access of theirs and say, here you go, Dom, here's a report.
Yeah.
So it can be quite difficult to do that. And that the big corporations are trying to do more. And I think we're going to see some regulation around that over the next sort of 10, 20 years.
Mm.
And that brings me on to another thing that we're doing called the Positive Nature Network, which is about
Right.
connecting organizations who are, values based around the environment. And one of the things that we see happening there is if big corporations are looking for suppliers who are already measuring and reducing their carbon, then they're going to have them as preferred suppliers, which means if we create a network of people who are all looking to reduce their carbon, it should create work for itself. Because if we're all having to show our suppliers' impact as well as ours, we're going to favor working with organizations who are taking the time to measure and demonstrate their carbon reductions.
Oh, that's incredible. I will definitely. Is there a website for the Positive Nature Network, Dom?
Yeah,
If there is, we will make sure we link to that in the show notes, because that sounds like such a brilliant idea and initiative.
it is as it sounds. Positivenaturenetwork.co.uk.
There we go.
Google it. You can't miss it. And yeah, do it. It's a mixture of online and what we call field events. They're local to us at the
Right.
moment, but what we're really hoping to do is create a community of people who are passionate about putting things back locally and setting up
Mm.
our field events. Might be going and planting trees or going and
Mm.
volunteering at local charities. And we set up events and try and recruit local businesses to get involved, sponsor those, and come along and get their hands dirty. That works from the perspective of connecting with nature. It also supports those organizations doing their great work. And I know you did
Yeah.
some apple picking recently, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah. The community orchard up in North London. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. So it's that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, and it feels good. It's good for the team. Everyone feels like they've put something back and had a nice day.
Yeah.
It's very connecting from a network perspective because you don't have to
Yeah.
pitch. You just naturally talk about what you do. Um,
Absolutely.
and also, we found the reach to be quite large. We've got people in America, across Europe, so we're
Oh
doing online
wow.
calls to make sure
Yeah.
everyone has the opportunity to come along, do a bit of a knowledge share, meet new people, and connect. So, yeah, we'd welcome you and any of your listeners along. You can go onto the
That's
website,
amazing.
sign up, and you'll get information only about the events that are coming up. And then, if you like them, you can sign up and come along.
Oh, that's incredible, Dom. Yeah, well, count us in for sure. We've after our apple picking the other week, we've definitely got a taste of this. It's but as you say, everything you said there is so true. Like we do as a team on our side, we do quite a few days like that, and honestly, every time it just yields so many benefits for us as a team. Like the people you meet, just getting outside in the fresh air. Many people working in front of a computer every day. When you get outside into nature, it's such a wonderful time to just reconnect a little bit, take a breather, but also get inspired. And I think everyone comes back the next day just feeling transformed when we do days like that. So that sounds brilliant, and to hear you bringing more people together to do that just sounds awesome. So I'm very excited for that, Dom. Thank you for sharing. I realize we are already over time, but I didn't want to finish without you did have a few little bits of advice, or well, you've already been sharing a load of advice, but there's a few tidbits that maybe you wanted to share, Dom. I wanted to just give you a little bit of a space to share anything you wanted to before we wrap up the show. It'd be great to hear anything you want to.
Good question. So, I suppose in summary of today's conversation, it sort of comes from unpicking your values and putting those things ahead of profit-making decisions, perhaps in a very sort of blunt business way. Now, your listeners here today, they're here for a reason, and they're interested already. They've made a commitment to come along and absorb more information around sustainability. So whatever it is you can do to move that forward and bring some different ideas to the forefront, go and do that. You won't be disappointed. As I say, it will be more of an and instead than an instead of. So that's going to massively help. Um, the next generation coming through, the younger generation now, there are already stats to say that our generation are buying on values, not price, right? But if you think about someone like Greta, her generation coming through and the younger generation coming under her, it's going to be unacceptable to be just a profit-making organization. That people want to align on values, they want to feel part of a community, and if you want to be a business that performs well in those marketplaces, you're going to have to be able to communicate what it is that you do other than just selling things. And if you do stay in that space of just thinking about profit, then you're going to be pulled down on price because you can't communicate what the value is of being chosen for you over someone else. So I think the best people that do that are Patagonia. Absolutely superb. They've done a fantastic advert which basically said, "Don't buy this jacket," because they don't want to sell stuff. They'd rather repair and reuse. There's a fantastic documentary called The Shithropocene, I think. I'm not quite sure how you say it, but it's not a pleasant word anyway. But the documentary is fantastic, and it talks about the challenges of creating products in a world where they're trying not to be commercial anymore, effectively, and the challenges of waste and life cycle and circular economy and all of these things. It's online, it's free documentary, it's absolutely fantastic. But they've given 140 million. They created the 1% for the planet thing. The amount of impact as an organization they can talk about, they are properly community activists, and they can now advertise to not buy their products. What kind of a world is that when you're in business? So that I would encourage people to try, if they can, to get to that level of community thinking, and of course community engagement. Lots of that, as you well know, exists around newsletters and keeping in touch, but also getting out and forming authentic relationships. And when you think about what the authentic relationship in your business is, it's very often not the thing that you sell.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, Dom, I'm so inspired. I just want to go off and watch that documentary, check out all of these causes and organizations you've been talking about. I can't thank you enough for just such a wonderful show today. It's truly been inspiring and so incredibly humbling to hear how much impact you're having and how much work you're doing as as an agency in Devon over that. Just the amount that you're doing as a small team is just it's just really really inspiring, and I'm sure many people listening to this are going to be going away thinking I can do some of that too. I want to be a bit more like Dom. That's I want to run my business a bit more like Dom. So I really, really appreciate it, Dom. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me on, James. And honestly, it wouldn't even cross your mind that you would think like that or anyone else would think like that. We've got so far to go on our own journey, and everyone is trying to do their bit on theirs. And it's inspiring to meet you and loads of other people all doing these things and circling around it. And yeah, it's been really fantastic. Thank you for having me on today.
Thank you, Dom. That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And if you want to go find out more about what Dom's up to, we'll make sure all of those are linked to in the show notes. And also, you must go check out the new website, voodigital.co.uk, and check that out. It's been a labor of love, I know. So yeah, please do go show your support to Dom and the team over there. And if you've enjoyed today's show, you know what to do. Please do give it a like, give it a 5 stars, give us a comment, or even just get in touch and let us know. And if you think it could be useful for anyone else, please do share this episode on, because yeah, we'd love for more and more people to be hearing these wonderful stories like Dom. So thank you for listening, and we will catch you on the next one.